Hello, I am Reverend Irene Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to Generationally Speaking. Here at the table, we come and we discuss life issues, no matter what they might be. As we sit at the table with each generation, we all learn, we all grow, we all are inspired.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Generationally Speaking. Welcome back to Generationally Speaking, and I'm still here with my special guests, Chrissy and Leonard and Kacia Warren from Humble Heartbeat Publishing. We just finished speaking to Kacia, and she talked to us about accountability coach, and she talked about being certified and how important those things are. If you're looking for a life coach, accountability coach, certainly she's the person for you to contact. I love what she said when it comes to generations, because sometimes we believe that I might need to get somebody younger, but she brought forth the fact that getting somebody younger, they may not have the wisdom that you need to move forward in the arena that you want to be in. And certainly once you work with Kacia and she gets you in those 90 days ready to pursue, then she'll make sure that you connect with the right people for all the technology that you want to use and those kinds of things. But now we're going to talk to the founder of the company, Humble Heartbeat, and that was birthed from Chrissy.
Yes.
So Chrissy, first of all, introduce yourself to my audience. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your formative years, and the things that you think impacted your life to bring you to this place and point.
Okay. I am Chrissy Ann Leonard. I'm an author, writing coach, and the other half of the business of the publishing. So I grew up in a small town of Glen Robbins, Ohio. That's where I spent my younger years. I mean, small. It was like 125 people if you count the pets. I mean, it was small, but it was good because you weren't really exposed to a lot of stuff. So you learned about the family unit and how people take care of each other, even when you're not related to them. So in that way, it was really good. And that is where, obviously, I went to school. And I went to Buckeye South Middle School, the elementary and then the middle school. But the middle school is where I found English. English was my favorite subject. I know it's so weird. People are like, what? I'm like, yes, I fell in love with English as soon as I walked in the door. And so out of that was born a love for writing. And I love to write. I love to be able to use the vocabulary to just create stories. And I was born creative. School just came naturally easy to me. And so I had to have something to challenge my mind. And writing did that for me. Like I could look at a picture and just tell a story about the picture without a lot of problems, or my thoughts would just naturally go there. And then when I went to high school, I went to Blair, Ohio, which I think is another small town. I mean, it's not a metropolis like Columbus. When I got here, I was like, wow, this place is big. Small town thinking, right? And there I did some poetry, but I went back to my love of short stories because there's just something about the art of storytelling. It's just a beautiful art form you can have. And I feel like it's really getting lost in the world today. People are turning away from the ability to tell stories, and technology is really helping that along. And after I got out of school, I tried the whole college thing. Again, I am the type of person that I have to be challenged on a very high level to stay motivated. And for me, college didn't do it.
You spoke about being able to look at a picture and tell a story. And what I've found today is our children sometimes lack imagination.
That's very sad.
And so with my grandkids, we have this game we play. And I'll start a story off. Once upon a time, in far, far away, land called nowhere, there was. And then they have to pick it up and add to it. And I found that they loved doing that, but it was imagination. And our children, I think technology has sort of drained them from that part of their brain where they're able to imagine. So that was fantastic that you, as a young child, in your own way, without knowing, you were honing that skill of writing.
Yes.
Fantastic. So now you come from this small town, and I come from a small town, but I don't know if my town was small as your town, but it was small. But what was it that made you decide that you wanted to have a publishing company? It's one thing to write a book. It's one thing to do some poetry, but a publishing company, that's a whole nother level. So what brought you to that point?
It's funny, I always wanted to be in control of what's happening with my stories, and you don't really get that when you do publishing with other people. Some you do if you do the hybrid, but I like to retain all my rights so I can take it where my imagination is going to go with it. But how that really came about was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I had a male mentor. I had had female mentors in the past, and I wanted to go to a male mentor because, as Kacia mentioned, men process things differently.
Okay.
It's a known fact that they process things differently. And I wanted to see how they were going to challenge me. And we met a couple times and we laid out some visions, and I started talking about books. Like, I want to do these books and I want to help people do books. And he just flat out said, why don't you just do your own publishing company? And I was like, that's a really good idea. So I went home and put it on my vision board, which now is about 5-6 years ago. And so everything takes the time to come to it. But now I want to be able to, because when I did my book, it was really a solo journey. I didn't have people to teach me what to do. I just dove in and was like, I'm going to learn it all myself. Again, I have to be challenged with things. But really what that was is some people saw that as a setback because it was a very difficult journey. I had no idea what I was doing. I was learning on the fly and just trying to be like, acting like I got it together when inside I'm like, I don't have a clue what's happening here. But that setback that people said was actually a setup from God. He was like, you're gonna master this, because one thing is I don't quit. As Kacia will tell you, I'm an all in or all out kind of person. And when I'm all in, I am all in. I will stay up and research. I'll do what needs to be done. And that's what I thought about the publishing company. Like, I don't want writers now, because if you face some of the challenges that I faced, you'll quit. You just will. I can tell in the first phone conversation with people if they're serious about writing a book. I can just sense that. I've been through it. I did hybrid publishing with my Letters to My Father book that I wrote and was published in 2019. It was a great experience because we both had a certain level of control, but I didn't want them to suffer the things that I went through when I already have the knowledge that I can pass down to them. Because the thing about knowledge is you're not meant to keep it for yourself. It's meant to be passed down on people so it continues through the generations. And I love what you said about the game that you play. Because I agree, imagination is dying, and that is a very sad thing. I came from a broken home, and what saved me was imagination. Because I got into books so I could escape my reality. And just not have to deal at a very young age what I had to deal with, because I wasn't equipped to do that. But books gave that platform to do that. And I always said, I want to be able to do that for other people. Because I've already done the path. I can help you do it. And I want to see everybody win. There's room enough for all of us at the top. It's not a competition. The new currency is collaboration and connection. Competition serves no place in the writing world, because you will be left behind. You just will.
You know, you talk about this desire to publish your own book, and the first book you published, the difficulties that you experienced. And I know that I met so many people who have a desire to write, to publish a book, and they have written chapters and chapters, and they have paper, and all of these things, but yet they've not taken the next step. And they're always asking, where do I go? How do I proceed? And depending on who you talk to, you get so many different answers. But having a reputable publishing company is really a plus. Yeah, because they know more facts about after the book is published than you do just trying to get a book published. So your first book, Letters to Your Father.
To my father?
To your father. So in writing that book and publishing that book, share with us some of the pitfalls that you hit that made you even more determined to, like, yeah, maybe I need to pursue this dream.
Yeah. Woo, how long do we have? 'Cause there's a lot. One of the big things is coming out of the broken home and having a very traumatic past. I became a perfectionist.
Okay.
And there is no room for perfectionism when you are writing a book. There just isn't. But I am my biggest critic. And I put myself under tremendous pressure to produce because I have such a high standard to get to, and I know I can get there and I can get people there. But with that comes pressure. So what I found is a lot of people will write. They will write. And everyone's story deserves to be told. Your story, someone is waiting for you to tell your story. But here's what I found about most people. A lot of people want to write their own story, their life story, if you want to call it. And they are not prepared for what comes with that. They think, I'm just going to write all this down on paper and I'm going to be a bestseller.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they don't ever take into effect is what I call the emotional recoil. Because you have to remember that your mind feeds your body what you feed your mind. And so when you go back into your story and you are revisiting all of this trauma that you endured, your body doesn't know that you're not right back there. Because you're feeling all of that again. You're drudging all of that up, all the pain, all the suffering, all the emotions. All your mind knows is, this seems really familiar. And so it sends down to your body, this is what I want to do. And you have this emotional recoil. And most people, I want to say at least 75% will stop dead in their tracks and they won't pick the pen back up again. Because they don't understand that you're going to feel all that, but that's also going to cleanse itself out. And that very thing that you don't want to get that level to is what will set your book apart from everybody else, especially in nonfiction. A lot of people feel nonfiction is just a bunch of facts. It's boring. It's this. I like to coach my people, even when you're in nonfiction, bring emotion into it. When you can bring the emotion, because your goal is you need someone to stay in your book and read it, right? That's what you want them to do. You want people to buy your book and you want them to read it. What makes readers stay in a book? One, they love a character or they love to hate a character and they love the storyline, or it's so enthralling or so negatively impacted on them that either way they want to know how it's going to end. So your ultimate goal is to put the emotion on the paper just to pull them in. Like I tell people, we want them to pick up your book and not go to sleep.
Yeah.
Not that I'm advocating for anyone to become an insomniac. I'm just saying you want your book to be so good and so gripping to people, regardless of the genre you write in, that they don't want to put the book down. Like it's a struggle. You know, you want I have to get up at 6, it's 2, I should probably put this book down so I can get a couple hours sleep. And then when I come home at 5, I'm going to pick this book back up again because I have to know humans are curious by nature. When I read a book and it's so enthralling, I'm watching the clock. I can't wait to get done because I got to see what happens in chapter 7. Like, I just have to know. That makes it worth going through all that you're going to go through because your story, somebody out there needs your story. It's what we worked with Irene. We had phone calls to 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning on a work night because she was caught in emotional recoil. And I said, you can still get this story done. Because one of your goals as a writing coach is you're not only helping them write their story, you're also helping them build confidence. This is what I was lacking when I did my story. I didn't have someone beside me helping me do that. I didn't have a writing coach. I'm an old school writer. I write on paper with pens. I don't do pencils. pens, and then I transcribe it into the computer. And there wasn't anybody there for me. And then when I hit the editing phase, I definitely wasn't prepared. Again, a perfectionist. And it stopped me cold in my tracks because I was like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. What are you talking about? And they're like, this needs some work. And, you know, and I'm a very strong personality and I'm very strong-willed and stubborn. And I was like, what? And they're like, it needs some work. This is a coffee table book. And you know what those are, right?
Yeah.
Coffee table books, you
Just
find them
like
in the
that.
doctor's office. They're just this decoration that sits there that people, when they're bored, they pick up and read. And they said, but we need you to produce a bestseller, so you need to get back to work. And it was not a well-received response. I did not give a good response back because I was like, this is difficult. But I also shouldered so much of that pressure that I didn't share with anybody how extremely hard the process was to do that, because I had to go to such an emotional level to complete this book, and I didn't want to go there. And that's why I say God has a fantastic sense of humor, because I'm not one to openly display my emotions, but it's the one thing that I do when I'm writing a book or I'm helping people write, is I look for where the emotions can be put in the book and I fill in the gaps. It's your story. I'm not going to write your story for you. I mean, I can if you want to hire me as a ghostwriter, but it's your story. I want to help you see how if you just add some things in at certain points that you don't, again, expand in the imagination and tapping into creativity. Everybody has creativity in them. It just needs to be tapped. How much broader your story can be and what you can do with it. And people were like, I didn't know I had this in me. I'm like, I saw it on day one.
So, Humble Heartbeat, how did you come up with that name?
Well, that's a twofold thing as well.
Okay.
After I published my book, you know, the writing world has a very addictive side to it. It just does. And a lot of people, it's the dark side of writing, where you get an award or an accolade and you're off and running chasing the next one because you want to be seen as being valued and holding some weight in the game, right? But I found that that was not good for me because it fed my ego. And that is a very, very difficult road you're going to travel, because I chased everything, every opportunity, every book fair, every book contest. I got judges' feedback and it was all good. And so part of me was like, can somebody just say something bad so they can just knock me off of this horse I'm riding on? But they didn't. And my ego literally was so big, it could have circled the globe a couple times. And I was just running in that mode. And then, you know, I always say, if you have to be humbled, make sure you do it yourself. You don't want God to do it for you. And he did, because as I was chasing all the glory, one, I lost sight of what I was doing it for. I lost that sight, and I injured my back. I re-injured a very bad back injury, and everything came to a halt. And I felt like God was saying, now that is done. We're not doing that again. That is pride, and that serves you zero purpose. And now I'm going to humble you. And it's painful. It's painful to be humbled by God, because I watched everybody else go past me. And deep down, I knew if I had stayed on the path, I would have been running over there with them. But I chose my own way and do my own thing. And so that was part of Humble Heartbeat. But the real reason I did that is, for me, Jesus is at the center of being humble. And his heart, our heart beats for him. And he sends that back to us. And so for me, he is the heartbeat that humanity needs, and we often don't want to recognize. And I just told Kacia, I said, I got this vision for this company. We're going to do a book publishing company. Notice I said we. I didn't ask her if she wanted to do it. I was just like, we're going to do this thing together. And I said, and this is what I want to call it. And this is why. And that is really how Humble Heartbeat Publishing came to be.
So how did you two come together?
Well, that's an interesting story as well. Kacia and I used to work together when she lived in Ohio, and it was like the clash of the titans. I mean, we are both very strong-willed women. We have big personalities. We're stubborn in our own ways, but we had to really just, I mean, it was bad. But in that essence, it was, I had never encountered someone that can stand on the same side as me. And for me, it was eye-opening, like, oh, hey, this is someone that, it's like looking at myself, but in a different person. I see a lot of those same traits. And I knew she really had the will to stay in the game. Because sometimes I want to bow out of the game, and she's like, not happening. That's just not, we're not quitters. We're not quitters. We're not. And I was like, she's right. We're not quitters. We're not quitters. And so we literally had to come together, and we just had a meeting with ourselves and said, where do we compromise? Because we think we can do amazing things together. We have to learn to give and take. And what we didn't see at that time of working together is that transcended into our business.
Wow.
It transcended. There's a give and take with us. I don't always agree with everything she wants to do. She doesn't always agree with the things I want to do. And we come back and say, where is the give and take for us? You know, Kacia is amazing. She handles the whole business side of the business. I'm the visionary and creative. The business side, I tell her, like, you just plan everything I need to go to. You figure, I'll tell you the things I'm interested in. You set the dates and you tell me when to come. Because I'm off on my next idea. I'm working with another client. And so I work heavily on the writing side, helping people write the stories and coaching them to do that while producing my own things. And we found that that worked really great for us. You know, she's the queen of networking. And I'm just like, yeah, it's a no for me. Like, it's not that I don't love being around people. I do love being around people. But she just has the knack. And it's one of the things we laugh about all the time. I'm like, can you just go instead? and she does, but that is her gifting. And I have learned that I have my own gifting, which is the writing and filling in the gaps of people. And that is, she's just like, it's a no for me on that. And so I stay in my lane. I don't come over to hers unless she asks me to dip my toe over there. And she stays in her lane and doesn't come over. But collectively together, we do make all the decisions for the business, who we're going to align with. We vet everybody together. So it's always 100%, but it doesn't mean we don't agree. But we have this understanding between ourselves that we can agree to disagree, take a breather for a couple days, and come back to the table, not with the problem, but with a solution to back up what we want to do with it. We need to explain why and offer a solution of what we can do. And then we found that we're like, oh yeah, we're on the same page now. It just looked a little different a couple days ago.
So how did you all come up with your first client that you went all the way to publishing? Because in publishing a book, it is so much more. You know, I sent in to you my what do you call it? My book.
Your manuscript.
My manuscript. And I think that I'm the English major, and I find out I'm anything but that.
Right.
And the punctuation is off. The past tense, present tense, all that's off. Thoughts go astray. So how did you all? And then just merely publishing covers. I don't think people understand covers. Page numbers, the codes that you have to put inside the books, all of those things are critical. The ISBN number, all of those things are critical. Making sure that you give you credit information that you've gotten from other sources.
Yes.
So your first customer, what did you all learn from your first customer?
Well, we were blessed that Irene was our first customer.
Okay.
We were all in an organization together and we got to know each other. And we really saw like a diamond in the rough with Irene. She had mentioned for years that she wanted to write a book, and I had felt God was leading me into the coaching area of that. But I'm also the type where I run a silent game. I don't bring it to the table until it's time because I don't want the enemy to have a seat at the table he doesn't belong at. And so she was writing for years. And I finally come out and said, you know what, I'm going to go into this coaching and I'm going to do this. And, you know, I'm pretty sure Irene was ready to do some backflips. And so I said, you know what, we need someone to come along with us so we can learn the publishing side as we go. And since we know each other, we feel that we can get to that level with you, Lorene. If you're willing to come on, you can be our test subject and we'll walk you through the whole process. I don't care what state your manuscript is in. And she did. And the thing about Kacia and I is before we ever released our publishing company, the queen of networking over here, we were already building a database of people to work with.
Okay.
So when we came to that, we already had cover artists because
Yes.
don't get me wrong, I'm all about creating covers and a lot of people use technology to do that. I prefer hand-drawn covers. Again, it's the human factor that they bring. You can see the difference in that. So we built that and we had people for podcasts and we have editors. And here's what I'll tell every author. One, do not edit your own work. Do not do that to yourself. You will sell yourself short, and here's why. When you are reading your book, you read it as you intend it to be read. That may not be what's on that page. And I ran into this myself with my own editors. They kept saying, that is not in the book. I'm like, it's in paragraph 4 on this particular page. I know it's there. And they're like, you need to get your manuscript back out and look at it. And it wasn't there, but I knew in my mind it was supposed to be there. So I read it in there. And the second thing is, you're as good as the editors behind you. And they're behind you for a reason. They are the best at what they do. And they have to put themselves in a place where they have to give you feedback. I don't ever like to use the word criticism. I think it has a very negative connotation for people, especially if you're struggling to do your book. You don't want to be criticized. Feedback is different. It's, it's constructive feedback. It's not saying you're terrible. They're just saying you have to do this in a way, because most authors write in a conversation mode. They don't understand that. And so we did that, and then we just learned. YouTube videos helped us of everything it takes to cover the ISBNs. It's a big process.
Yeah.
Writing the book is difficult. Publishing it is just as hard.
All right. Well, man, our conversation has been so rich. To close out, where is the company going in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, we are going to move into a lot of different arenas. I don't like to talk about what they are, but we are going to expand outside of the book area itself. It's still going to be the foundation of what we're doing, but we are going to partner with people that are better at the side we want to get into than we are, because we are new and you have to be mentored.
Right.
You have to be mentored. And so, I want my authors to come with a book, and their dream is, I want it to go to a movie or film.
Love it.
And the dream goes.
I love that. I love that. So tell us how we can connect with you, how my audience can connect with you all.
You can. I tell people the quickest way is connect with Kacia because she's the business side. So you can find her on Facebook, Instagram. You can email her at coachkacia@gmail.com. Then she coordinates with me. I have my own website, chrissyleonard.com. That's a lot of my books and the things with that. We're working on moving the publishing on there. And a lot of times we get referrals. Every client we have now has come from a referral from someone else. So if you know someone that wants to write a book, we'll certainly take the first phone call.
Well, you got those manuscripts out there. They're sitting in the closet. They're sitting in your desk. They've been sitting around for years now. So it's time to bring them to life. Contact the company, and they can help you. Now, I know she said Kacia. I know you're thinking Keisha. It is not that. No. It's Kacia. All right.
Kacia Warren.
Kacia Warren at.
It's coachkacia@gmail.com.
coachkacia@gmail.com.
Yes.
Kacia. All right. Whatever you do, make sure that you stay inspired, informed, and once you get once you are inspired and you are ready to go and you get some information, don't jump out there without any information. Get your information. So your information with your inspiration will bring about a transformation, and you're going to see some great things coming towards your way. Thanks. See you next week.